Hello, 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 hello. Am I live here? What the hell? I am live or not? Hmm. Hello, 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 hello. Am I live? Hello, guys. Am I live here or not? Am I ad My audio is clear? No? Hmm. Yeah, it's clear. Okay. So, what am I going to do today is obviously we're going to take a HTML accessibility quiz again, and if we find it, like, obviously if we take test review, and that we will do the exam. So this is our basic HTML completed here, and then we start JavaScript and CSS. I guess we can start this both of this together. So what can I do? And I will try to actually complete accurately this time. If we fail, I'm gonna review all these, uh, all the accessibility notes. Standardized practices to ensure the web application can be used by everyone, including those with disabilities. Accessibility is a set of standardized practices to enhance the speed and performance. No, it is the first one is actually correct. Which of the following is a good example of proper heading structure? So proper heading structure is this one. Okay. What are 6 main categories of ARIA? Document, landmark, window, explicit, widget, footer. Okay, let me. 6 main categories of ARIA. Abstract is not in it. Live reason is in it. Okay, landmark, house, application, window, extension. There should be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Obviously, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Landmark is there, window is there, live reason is there, abstract is there, document structure is there. Document structure, landmark, window, explicit, widget, footer. I mean, this is correct answer maybe. Yeah, this should be correct. What is the correct way to add alt attribute? Okay, I think this is the correct way to add the alt attribute. What does YARIA stand for? Uh, Access rich internet application. Anchor, not accessible rich internet application is the correct answer. What is the role of ARIA hidden? Hidden? Okay. What is the role of ARIA hidden? The attribute is used to hide an element only to the keyboard users. Yeah, I think this is the correct answer. No, no. Yeah, assistive technology से hide कर देता है ये ARIA hidden. Which attribute makes elements focusable and defines the relative order in which they navigate using the keyboard? Relative order. Which attribute makes element focusable and defines the relative order in which they are navigated using the keyboard? Relative order. Index tab, tabbing index, keyboard index. Tabbing index or tab index? Okay, let's leave this for now. Which is why it is good practice to include caption element inside HTML table. Okay, it enhances the tables. No, it is helpful for users quick understand the table purpose and content. This is the correct answer. What is difference between the attributes aria label and labeled by? To give color, no, no, no. Aria by attributes allows you to give an element an accessible name by referencing an existing element on the page, while aria label attribute allows you to define the name in the attribute itself. Yeah, basically aria labeled by attribute allows you to give an element an accessible name by referencing an existing element. Yeah, so basically if an element has a name, so we can use that name using aria labeled by in another element, so it will show that this is actually these both aria elements are related. Which of the following arias stands for what? Which of the following aria states is used to indicate the element is selected? Selected, which is not a common aria state. Common aria state. Common aria state. Hidden, checked, disabled. Columns. Which of the following example is correct way to associate label with input element? Label. Form here. For label for is correct. Then input type id first name. Okay, but for and id should be the same, so this is the correct answer. How does a screen magnifier help visually impaired navigate the pages? A screen magnifier converts help visually impaired pages by allowing them zoom in, zoom out. What is the role of hash pop-up attribute? Hash pop-up. So basically it tells that because for is not commonly used aria role. Access menu alert tab. Commonly, not commonly used. So access menu is used here. Tab is also used. Alert is also used, I guess. Access maybe. Which of the following attribute is used to create live region? Obviously live region. Wait a minute. Which of the following attribute is used to create live region on your web page, which can be used to notify screen readers using dynamic content web pages? Region or live? Notify the screen reader uses dynamic context changes. Dynamic content. I don't know. What is the purpose of the role attribute? Role attribute का purpose. To add label to uniform elements using assistive technologies, better understand how elements should be interpreted and interacted with. To specify the type and purpose of an element, allowing assistive technology to better understand how elements should be interpreted and interacted with. To style elements with CSS animation, allowing assistive technology to better understand how the element should be interpreted and interacted with. To define the visual appearance of HTML. Okay. Role का purpose क्या है? Role. Okay. To add labels to form elements, allowing assistive technology to better understand how elements should be interacted and interacted with. Purpose of rule attribute. To add labels to form elements, allowing assistive technologies to better understand how elements should be interpreted and interacted with role. Okay. To specify the type and purpose of element, allowing the assistive technologies to better understand how elements should be interpreted and interacted. And this is the correct answer, I guess. Used in other elements to basically define the assistive technology, that what is the role of this element. Why it is important to use descriptive link text in links? To ensure that everyone includes assistive technology understand the purpose of link. Yes. Ensure to make link stand. Ensure that the search. This is the correct. Which of the following is the best practice to make audio and video content accessible? To providing captions and transcript and audio to make accessible. This is the correct answer. Yep, this is correct answer. Which of the following attribute is used to indicate that element is checked in the checked state? Checked is checked is checked. Wait, now let me see if I have all of them. Which attribute makes the purpose focusable? I'm going for tabbing. I don't know if it's right. Let's finish that. And I'm finished. 17. RS checked is not correct. Then is RF checked is correct. Oh my god. I have to take this again. So this is the correct answer. Correct answer. Correct. Okay, this is also not correct. So let me check what is the correct answer for this. Which of the following attributes is used to create live region on your page, which can be used to notify screen reader using of dynamic content changes? ARIA live is the correct answer. Oh my god. So live region changes, so ARIA live. Okay. Okay. I guess. So here's a correct answer for here, and for this, which of the following attributes is used to indicate that an element is in the checked state? Checked attribute, put checkbox checked. So normal checked is the correct answer here. Okay. Okay, and this is true. This is also correct. These all are correct. Which attribute makes the focusable element and they are navigated in the keyboard? Tabbing index is the correct wrong answer. So let me check this one. I don't know this one. So which attribute makes elements focusable and defines the relative order in which they are navigated using the keyboard? The attributes that makes elements focusable and defines the relative order in which they are navigated using the keyboard is tab index. Tab index. Okay. Okay. So here input type text, tab index 1, button tab index 2, click me. For example, the input field will be focused first when the navigating using the keyboard. Okay, I guess. Okay. Now we have to take the text again because we failed. So let's do it again. Which is not one of the main categories of ARIA. Widget is not. Lamp is there, hidden is there, window is there. Which of the following is not a commonly used alternative pointing devices used by people with mobility impairment? Mobility impairment, okay. Joystick scanners, obviously. Which of the following is that of the, what is the rule of tab index attribute? Tab index attribute, it used to be accessible and defines the relative order in which should be navigated using the keyboard. It is used to indicate that the element's content is used to enough require that any changes or content should be announced. It is used to define a keyboard shortcut. No. It is used to indicate that an interactive element will be triggered. No. अभी तो पढ़ा हूं मैं. It is used to indicate the element content is important enough to require any changes should be announced by screen reader. Yeah, this is, yeah. Which of the following is not a common accessibility tool? Common accessibility tool. ये गलत होने वाला है मेरा. वेव है, गूगल लाइट हाउस है. अब इस दोनों में मेरे को नहीं पता है. IBM वाला होगा शायद. AWSL. पता नहीं. Which of the following roles is used to define the purpose of functionality of interactive elements like scroll bar? Purpose and functionality of interactive elements. Interactive elements. The following rules is used to define the purpose and functionality. Live region is used for dynamic changing region. So if a website has some region which is dynamically changing, then we use live region rules. Landmark rules. Why you use landmark rules? Let me cheat some because I don't want to give it 10 times. Which of the following rules is used to define the purpose and functionality of interactive elements like scroll bar? Web content accessibility guidelines and CSS scroll bar module. Okay, that was trash. Which of the following rules is used to define the purpose and functionality of interactive elements like scroll bar? Widget rules, document structure rules, landmark rules, or live region rules? The rules is used to define the purpose and functionality of interactive element like scroll bar is. However, among the options provided, most relevant users use ARIA landmark rules. These rules are used to define the purpose and structure of the web page, including the role of interactive element like scroll bars. Landmark rules provide a way to identify the main section of the web page and help screen reader other technology to navigate the page. These rules are used to define the behavior of live region, which are areas of web page can change dynamically, such as notification update. Yeah. So for scroll bars, I think landmarks is the correct answer. What is the function of live region? Yeah. The, yeah, this is the correct answer. The roles define elements which with content that will change dynamically. Which of the following is the correct way to add text label to an element screen reader can read? ARIA label, ARIA region, ARIA label, search, ARIA live, no, ARIA labels, no. This is correct answer. What is the purpose of it is a specific and enhanced accessibility and dynamic content user UI users intercomponent. Reports user associate it's an attribute to use provide additional information that associate with another element contains the information. It is a special type of validator used to web page and web accessibility interface. Correct. It is a specification that enhances accessibility for dynamic content and user interface components. Additional information about the element by associating with another element. What is the purpose of WAI ARIA? Set technical specifications and guidelines for dynamic web content and interactive web application. People with disabilities. Yeah, this is the correct answer. Which of the following is the correct way to indicate that a tab is selected? So selected. ARIA select is the correct answer. What is ARIA expand attribute used for? Expand. So to indicate that interference pop-up activated. Commonly use ARIA role. Commonly used ARIA role. What are some commonly used ARIA roles? Button, menu, true. What? None of them. Okay. Button, link, menu, tab, alert. Yeah, tab is the correct answer, I guess. What is the four principles behind the content accessibility guidelines? Perceivable, operable, understandable, robust is the correct answer. To edit button, and what is the correct way to screen readers edit the correct way to tell the screen users edit button is disabled and cannot be interacted with? Following is the correct way to tell the screen reader users that edit button is disabled and cannot. Okay. Disabled is or disable I guess. Which of the following attribute is used to define a keyboard shortcut for an element? Keyboard shortcut. Hmm. Which of the following attribute is used to define a keyboard shortcut for an element? What? Which of the following attributes is used to define a keyboard shortcut for an element? Accessing key, tabbing key, provide access, blah blah blah. What? ARIA key shortcuts. What? Mm, there should be another way. Which of the following attributes is used to define a keyboard shortcut for an element? Accessing key, tab index key. Yeah, access key is the correct answer, I guess. Access key, accessing key. Access key. What are landmark rules used for? They are used to add label. No. They are used to classify the label. No. They are used to add. They are used to add label. They are used to add labels. The primary section of the web page is the correct answer. Yeah. Correct. The following is the correct way to indicate whether element is checked state. Which of the following is the correct way to indicate whether an element is in the check state? Busy, no. What is correct syntax? ARIA checked or ARIA check? Okay. Checked is the correct answer. Which are the following example of window role? Which of the following is an example of window role? Notify, send, hidden, dialog. The following example of window role that can use create. Okay. Dialog. Okay. Model, style, this dialog is the correct answer. Okay. Let me see what is it is used for. So role is equal to dialog, array model true and display none. For this example, attribute is used to indicate that the element is a dialog box or a window. Okay. What is voice recognition software used for? These tools are people use your voice and startup stop animation. Disability is the voice to add forms on the web page. The voice pass commands and perform various tasks like writing emails. Voice to add tabs on the web page. What are the options given here? They are also trash. These tools let people with disabilities use their voice to pass commands to perform various tasks like writing emails. The correct answer. All of these are correct. Without following is a correct way to hide an icon. Assistive technology is hidden. Aria hide or aria hidden, which is the correct syntax? Aria hidden is the correct syntax, not hide. So here class hides live hidden. Which of the following attributes is used to create programmatic relationship between elements and control the presence of another element? I don't know. Let's check. Which of the following attributes is used to create a programmatic relationship between an element that controls the presence of another element on the web? Aria controls. So for example, there is a button, it has an ID and it has the attribute aria controls panel. So this button actually controls the panel. Okay. Controls is the correct answer. Aria controls. Now we can finish the quiz and we also fail, I guess. Yeah. Only 15 are correct. Are you kidding me? This is not correct. This is also correct. This is also correct. This is not correct. What is the following correct way to tell screen reader that this ID button is disabled? So disabled is the correct answer here. Okay. Now I will not fuck this up. And this is also incorrect. No. This is incorrect. How this is incorrect? Aria expanded attribute used for. It is used to indicate whether the element is in checked state. Of course not. It is used to indicate that the interactive element will trigger a pop-up element when activated. This should be correct. It is used to convey that the state toggle disclosure feature to the users. It is used to indicate that the element is disabled only to people using assistive. Yep. Yeah, what the fuck? Yes, third is the correct answer. It is used to convey the state of the toggle. Oh my god. Okay. How is it wrong? Which of the following correct way to indicate a tab is selected? Select is not the correct answer. Selected is the correct answer. Okay. Now I guess I will pass this time. Aria button label search. Okay. All this is correct. Now, which of the following used to? I think then if it is not landmark, then it should be the live region here answer. Okay. Now this is also wrong. Which of the following is not a main categories of ARIA roles? Widget is a main category of ARIA roles. Hidden maybe. Which of the following is not one of the main categories of ARIA roles? ARIA rows? No. No ARIA row. What the fuck are you? Arya rules. Arya rules. With get. These rules are used. Okay, landmarks. Okay. Then we have um, what the fuck are these rules? Window. There are only three main categories of Arya rules. First is presentation rule. Landmark, widgets, menu, sliders, attributes. This doesn't answer my question. Let me change the prompt. Option 1, landmark. Second is widget. Third is hidden. Fourth is window. Let me check. Save. Hidden is the correct answer. My god. Okay. Now we have understood everything. Now we should pass. If we don't pass, then we are trash. And we should go and break our computer. Okay. Let's try this one. And this is our last try. Then we'll review our HTML. Let's try. Accessibility क्या है? ये सही है. ये सही है. ये सही है. अब मैं फकअप नहीं कर सकता इसको. Which attribute is the focusable elements? Wait. Which attribute makes element focusable and defines the relative order? Index or tab index? Tab index the correct answer I guess. नहीं इस बार गलत नहीं है. सही होगा. गलत हुआ. Which of the following? कैप्शन का काम है. This is the correct. This is the correct answer. Selector is the correct answer. Following. Common area. Hidden is not a common area. Not a common area. Columns. Correct way to set label. Yeah, this is correct answer. This is the correct answer. Has pop-up. So Yeah, this is another. ओके, कौन सा इसमें कॉमनली यूज्ड आर लोड नहीं है? नॉट अ कॉमनली यूज्ड. ओके. अलर्ट एक्सेस. लाइव रीजन ना. लाइव. रोल एट्रीब्यूट का पर्पस क्या है? डिफाइन द विजुअल. नो. नो. या. दिस इज. व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू यूज डिस्क्रिप्टिव लिंक? डिस्क्रिप्टिव लिंक क्यों जरूरी है? इंश्योर दैट एवरीवन इंक्लूडिंग. या. या. Which of the following is the best practice audio video content accessible? Yes. What the? Yeah, this is correct answer. Is it the following? Let me check. Check. Yeah, this is एक भी गलत नहीं. Yes. Okay, 19 out of 20. What the fuck, bro? What the fuck? Something is incorrect. Still incorrect. रोल का क्या है, ये गलत कैसे हो सकता है? Add labels to the element, allowing SST technology to better understand how elements should be interdependent. अरे ये गलत क्यों कर दिया? To specify the type of purpose. Yeah, this should be the correct answer here. This should be the correct answer. To specify the type of purpose of the element, allowing SST technology to better understand how elements should be interpreted. Yeah, this should be the answer. So at last we have completed it without any cheating this time. So that's really good. If you have not cheated, we have done our best here, and we should be proud of ourselves. Now we should agree to submit the next challenge. Now we are going to submit it. Okay. After that, we have completed all the HTML, and now we can start with. Now we are starting the whole HTML review. This is actually the whole HTML. The HTML we have started from the beginning, and we have done it till here. Now this should actually contain all the information about ARIA, about the forms, about the header sections, about the elements, the basic elements, about the semantics and everything. So and the exam is also coming soon, so you don't have to actually we can maybe half an hour. Go back. Go back. Okay. We should start this. Let's start. तो HTML बेसिक हम पढ़ रहे थे. तो so the role of HTML. The full form of HTML is actually hypertext markup language, and it is a foundation of web structure. It defines the elements. It basically defines the structure for all the elements in the web page. The HTML elements are used to represent the content of the page. Most of them are made by the opening and closing tags. For example, H1, P, all of these. HTML structure consists of head, body, metadata, styles, and content and structure. Common element include HTML element includes H1, H6, paragraph, P, division, div. So all of the following elements are common elements here. So Basically, common elements are those elements, yeah, are those elements which we use when we are actually writing any code in HTML. If you want to write a single boilerplate code, or if we are actually writing a very complex web page, we have to include all the basic elements. For example, the headers, paragraph, and the divs. Div element is generic element. It does not hold any semantic meaning here. It is used as a generic container to hold HTML elements. Now, what is a word element? Do not have a closing tag. Word element do not have a closing tag. For example, image element is a word element. Attributes, adding metadata and a behavior to the elements is basically attributes. Identifier and grouping. We use IDs and classes. So IDs we use to group elements, unique element identifier to use. It is used to identify that this element is unique. And the classes, if you want to add styles to different elements, we use classes. Now, if we talk about HTML, special character and linking, we have HTML entities use special character like AMP and LT. Okay. Then link element, then script element. Link element, linking an external style sheet. Script element is basically embedding external JavaScript. Okay. So if you want to add a CSS or a style sheet, which is external page, if you want to add it in our HTML, so we can link it using the link element. And if you want to add JavaScript in our HTML, we can use the script element. Now let's talk about boilerplate code and encoding. HTML boilerplate. It is basic structure of web page and includes the doc tab, HTML, header, body elements. It should be used as starting point of HTML document. Now we talk about the UTF-8 character encoding. This actually ensuring the universal character display. So now we talk about SEO and social sharing. What is SEO? Meta tags like description. We use to provide a short description of our web page on impacting the SEO. SEO basically search engine optimization. And open graph tags enhancing the social media sharing. Yeah, open graph tags. For example, there are some tags like OG label, OG, some OG labels are there. We actually open graph. OG stands for open graph here. So OG label, OG form, OG image, maybe. All these are tags. Media element and optimization. Replace elements. Some elements like images and frames can be used as a replace element. So if you click on them, the image will be replaced by an external website. Optimizing media techniques to improve the media performance. Image formats and license. Understand the use right types. Yeah, we have all read about all of this stuff. There are many types of licensing. Default is like something like 0. I don't know. I don't remember now, but there was some 0 common license. I don't know. Okay. Then we have the SVG, scalable vector graphics and sharp visuals. Multimedia integration, HTML audio and video elements, embedding multimedia, embedding with iframe integrated external video content. Path and link behavior, target attribute types, controlling link behavior, absolute versus relative path, navigating directories, path syntax, understanding this, find navigation, link state, managing different links and interaction, however active. Okay. Importance of semantic HTML. Okay. So how can we embed video and audio in our web page? We can use iframe, yeah, to embed video and audio. We can also add buttons to control, pause, loop the video. We can also add attributes. Yeah, we have all read about all this stuff, how to embed a video, how to embed audio. Paths and link behavior. Target attributes type, controlling link behavior, absolute, relative path. There are two types of paths, absolute path and negative path. Navigating directories, path syntax, understanding this. Or we look at if we are using this syntax, we are in the current directory, and if we are in this syntax, then we are in the parent directory. We have link states managing different link like hover active, yeah, hover active, and yeah, there was another one, default, hover active, and there was one more, I think, accessed or something like that, I don't know. Importance of semantic HTML. Structural hierarchy and HTML elements. It is important to use the correct heading elements to maintain the structural hierarchy of the content. H1 to H6 is the correct hierarchy. The lower the number in the H1 tag is, the higher the priority is given to the tag. Now we talk about the presentational HTML elements. Elements that define the appearance of the context. Example, descripted center big font and font elements. So, for example, these are all elements which are not used these days because we use CSS instead. Now we use semantic elements. They are basically elements which provide the meaning to the structure of the content. So basically all the headers, nav, articles, aside, section, footer, these are mainly used elements. So these we actually use in our real life in HTML documents. Now what? Okay. Yes. So now so we have learned emphasis, arithmetic text, strong importance, being attention to description list, description details, block notation, indentation, abbreviation, contact address, date and time, subscript, superscript, inline, unarticulated annotation, Ruby annotation, and strike through element. We have already learned about these, so we have to actually revise it because we know all of that stuff. HTML form elements and attribute form element used to create the HTML form for user input. Action attribute defines whether you send form data. Method determines how form data sent get posted. Text, email, password, radio, checkbox, number, and date. Action attribute, method attribute used to specify the URL of the data sent. Specify the HTTP method used from the data. Most common methods are get and post. Okay, so we have actually understand the forms. We have also understand the common input types here. We can input email, text, password, radio. Radio is basically two buttons we can choose from. Checkbox is basically we can choose multiple checkboxes at the same time. Now we can input number also, we can input date also. Now action attribute basically tells the where the URL the data in the form should be sent, and the method is actually specify the HTTP method which we are going to use to send the data. Most commonly use two of the methods, get and post. Okay. बाप रे बड़ मच्छर से गए, बहुत मच्छर से बर्ड मुंह में घुसे छै। चार्ज नहीं छै, चार्ज में लगा दे। मच्छरदानी लगा ले छै। Okay, so now we talk about something else. Yeah. Okay, input element, we also talk about input element type, radio, placeholder. Basically placeholder is that we, if you want to like show something that is going to be inputted in the in the field where we want to input the element, we use the placeholder. For example, if you want to enter the name, we can use a name by default in the where we want to input the name. Now we have the value attribute. Let's specify the input and type. Value attribute, okay, size attribute, min, max, min length, max length, required, disabled, read only. Now the important attributes of one of these are value attribute. It is used to specify the value of the input. If the input has a button type, the value attribute can be used to set the button text. Okay. For example, if we now min and max attribute, the attributes actually used the maximum number of inputs we can input in our the input field. So this is the max value, and min value is the minimum number of values we are going to input in the field. Min length and max length. So there is a difference between min max and min length max length. So min max and min length and max length are, because when we are using letters as an input, we are going to use min length and max length, and if we are going to use number as an input, we are going to use min and max. Okay, that's the difference. Now we have the required attribute to use to specify that input field must be filled before the submitting the form. Okay, disabled attribute is used to specify that input field is disabled. Read only attribute is used to specify that the input field is read only. Read only means we can input something in that. We can't actually. Now we will talk code here. Now we will see the input field. Here is the input field. Instead of the attribute. So first is type. So what does this indicate? This indicates that this input field will take the text as input. This is ID. This is the name. Both of these are used to give a specific identifier to this input field. Now we have the placeholder. Placeholder will tell that the name should be in this syntax. So C large is given here. For example, size is 20, the maximum length 20. Now if we are using characters here, if we are using numbers, we can't use numbers here. Okay, then what is this size used for? Maybe this is used for actually the length of the fill in the blank space. This is the size of the blank space which will be shown on the form, and this is the minimum length and the maximum length of the name required. Maximum it can be 30 characters. I don't know why it's there. Button. Inside the button we have the value. So basically this button is actually to show alert. So now we have done with this. Now we'll talk about the label element. Is used to create a label for an input field. For the attribute used specify the input field of the label is for. Implicit form association inputs can be associated with labels by wrapping the input field the label element. Okay. So label element is basically used to actually create an input field and wrap a label towards it. So if we want an input field to have a label, we can use the label element, and we can connect that label element with the input field with the help of for attribute. For example, here is the code here, the form action here. We don't have anything inside the action field, but we can do like action is, I guess, submit, method is post or something like that. Inside the label here, inside the form here we have label. The label is full name, and this full name here, label here, and we have the full name type text. Okay, so we have the input field inside the label field. Now we can also do it like this, but this is actually known as the explicit form association. Okay, implicit form association. So this syntax is for implicit form association. Inputs can be associated with labels by wrapping the input field inside the label element. Now, this is when we have label and we are wrapping the input field inside the label itself. So we are using here implicit form association. Now, if you want to have a different input field and a different label field, both be different, then we should use explicit form association. For explicit form association, we will use the for attribute, not otherwise. So inside the form here we have a label. Inside the label you have the for attribute, and for this is email and ID. So for and ID is used to connect these two fields together. Now this, what is this label for? This label is for email. And for implicit form association we can use this. So both of them are actually correct. Now button elements. Button elements have a type. We can use multiple types of buttons by assigning types to them. For example, button, there is a type button. So this button is actually a button which will show a form. So this button will actually do nothing because we don't have any here, but we have to build a JavaScript file and actually connect it with our HTML to so that this button functions correctly. Now this button, which we have the type submit, actually submits the form, and this button which we type reset will reset the form. So this we don't have to add any external JavaScript file to make this button work. Now we have the field set element and the legend element. These two elements are very important. Field set element and legend elements makes the form look really nice and really good basically. Now, so we have these two, field set element and legend element. Okay. Now if you want to, for example here, let's see this is a code here. Yeah. So this is a radio group. Inside the radio group we have the field set. Inside field set we have a legend. Legend basically tells that what is this field for. So what was this your first time at our hotel? So this field set will add this. This basically works as a label, but it looks better than the label. So that's the actually difference. Inside the legend we have a label. So if you want to use multiple labels, we can use inside the legend. So we have label and we have an input ID. So label is for yes opinion, and we have label for yes, and there is a button. This is a radio button, and we can use this radio button or this radio button. So if it was your first time, this was your first time entering this hotel, you can use yes, and if it wasn't, you can use no. Okay, everything is good. Now field set legend here. Now we have another legend. So we have actually divided our form into multiple layers. So first section here is for field set, where this question is being asked and there are two options given to choose from. Now the second field set will tell this question, ask this question, why did you choose to stay in our hotel? Now inside this legend we have two checkboxes. We have checkboxes. So the difference is we have radio here. So inside radio you can only choose one option, and inside the checkbox here we can choose multiple options. So basically for label here, so this is a checkbox, ID, name and value. Okay. For price we have checkbox, ID, name and value. Okay. So basically why did you choose to stay in our hotel? So there can be multiple that this hotel is located at very beautiful place. This has very and the price is also very convenient. You can also tell that. Now let's talk about working with HTML tables and attribute. Now let's talk about the focus state as well. The focus state, this is the state of input field when it is selected by the user. Now, so when a field is selected by the user, it is in the focused state. So that's the reason. working with HTML elements and attributes. Okay. Now we have completed the form revision. Now we have jumped into the table revision. Inside the table we have multiple elements. So table element, table head, table row, table header, table body, table data cell, table footer, table, and we use these tags to represent these tables. So represent these elements. So T head is for the table head, TR is for the table row, TS for the table header, T body is for table body, TD is for table data cell, T foot is for table footer, caption element is for HTML table. This caption element actually add titles to the table. So if we don't know what is this table actually for, so we can use the table element here. And the second is call span. Call span is basically it is used to specify the number of columns and tables and cells should span. Okay, so that's it. Speak louder. Sorry, bro. This is the actually I can't speak louder than this. This is the highest I can go. This is actually the. Let me check if I can do something else. Filters here. Yes. Can we increase this? No, we can't increase this. Global. Yeah, this is the sound output here. So go than that. Okay, let's hop on to where did my mouse go? Okay. Now, so if we look at this code here, so this code is for table here. Inside the table we have the caption, and inside the caption, this caption is for what is this table for. Actually, it will tell that. And inside the after the caption, there is a table head, T head. So everything inside the T head will act as a table header. For example, inside the T head we have the table row. We have inside the table row we have table header. Yeah, table headers or something like that. What is table header and table header? So this is table head and these are table headers. So inside the table headers we have 3 row and we have 3 table headers: last name, first name and grades. Okay, after this, after all this, we have closed the T head. So after T head is closed, after that we have the T body. Inside the T body we have actually 3 table rows here. Inside each table row we have table data. So inside each row we have the table data here. Okay, so table data or table data cell, TD, yeah, table data. Okay, so this will, if we use this inside a HTML document, it will show output as a form. Sorry, it is output as a table. So let me just Okay. Okay, hello, hello, hello. Okay, hello, hello, hello. Yeah, everything is good, I guess. Okay. Now, we hop onto the table body here. Inside the table body, there are actually three rows. Inside each row, we have three columns, as we can see. And all these columns will be associated with the table head. And inside the table head, we have the table headers. So inside the table header here, the last name, the first name, and the grade goes. So the first thing here, the first table data here will be associated with the last name. So Davis here is the last name, the first name is Alex, and the grade is actually 54. This is how it is represented in the form when we use it in the HTML. Now, inside the table body here, when it is ended, after that we will start the table footer. Inside the table footer, we have a table row here. Inside the table row, we have average grade and call span. Call span is basically when we have to tell that this text will take 2 columns or 3 columns. We have to specify this here. This is to correct the syntax of the HTML table. So it looks good. It basically serves that. After that, we have to close the table footer, and inside after that we have closed the table. So this is how we make a table inside the HTML. After that, we have HTML tools, HTML validator, DOM inspector, and dev tools. These three are very important. HTML validator is a tool to check the syntax of the HTML code and to ensure it is valid. DOM inspector, a tool that allows you to inspect and modify the HTML structure of a web page. DevTools, a set of web developer tools built directly into the browser that helps you debug, profile, and analyze the web page. Okay. So DevTools are basically those tools inside the browser which for example here, if I open here, we have the inspect section here. So these all inside we and we have, as we can see, we have a main section which is the blue, and have the margins, and this is actually CSS. Now, okay, these all are default default HTML tags here which used here, so that we can looks actually that of CSS. So that are the dev tools. Now we talk about the accessibility. This is not that important, accessibility, but we can just complete it. We can just look at it very quickly. So web content accessibility guidelines here. So basically WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It's a set of guidelines for making web content accessible to people. Four principles of WCAG are POUR, POUR. P stands for perceivable, O stands for operable, U stands for understandable, and R stands for robust. Perceivable means people with different kinds of disability should be able to perceive the text inside HTML here. Operable means basically it should be operable on multiple devices and phones, our web page which we have designed. Understandable means we should use simple sentences, not complicated syntax and complicated symbols in our web page, so that everyone can understand our text and everyone can understand it easily. Robust means our web page here should be able to run without any errors on multiple devices. So all this is what POUR stands for. Now, what are assistive technology for accessibility? For example, screen readers, large text or braille keyboards, screen magnifiers, alternative pointing devices, voice recognition. These all are assistive technologies. Assistive technologies help people with disabilities to understand and to basically consume the contents of the web page. Now, accessibility auditing tools. Common accessibility tool is Google Lighthouse. So basically, we can check the accessibility of our web page inside Google Lighthouse, Wave, IBM Equal Accessibility Checker. These are actually given by different companies to check the accessibility rating of our web page. So with the help of these क्या बोलते हैं इसको, these tools, we can check the rating, how accessible is our web page for different kind of disabled people. Now, accessibility best practices. Okay, if we talk about accessibility best practices, this is how should we make our page so that the people with different kind of accessibility issues can actually access our page and read the content with ease. For example, proper heading level structure. As we know that for heading inside the HTML, we have a structural hierarchy. For example, H1 tag is the most privileged header tag which we used for the main header of our web page, and we have H2 till S6. The lower the number inside the header, the higher the priority gets. Now, if we talk about the accessibility with tables, accessibility and tables, we have th element to define the header cell and td element to define the table data cell. Now, to help the assistive technologies to understand the structure of the table, we can add the captions here, the labels here, and the captions here too, so that what is the table is actually for, and how can we actually read it correctly. A good importance of a good alt text. What is alt? Alt stands for alternative, and this attribute is used to provide the text to have alternative image. For example, if we have embedded an image in our HTML form or web page, and for some reason it doesn't load, then we can add an alternative text so that the image basically alternative text will describe the image in short, basically. This helps the assistive technology to understand the content of the image. Importance of good link text. So our text should be descriptive. The link should be descriptive so that, like, if people have disability, so they can't just click on the link and hop onto different pages. So we can actually describe what this link does. If we click on this link, what will it do? So we can help assistive technology to understand the purpose of the link. Okay. Now, best practices for making audio and video content accessible for people with disabilities. We should provide caption and transcript for audio and video content. Captions are basically the audio or the video should be available with text. They are captions. So the text can be also be read by the screen reader. If some part of the audio or video is not clear, the screen reader can read the captions there. Now, transcript is used for, like, if the people doesn't know any like, if he doesn't know English, he can see the video in Hindi also, or some other kind of language. Okay, you should also provide audio description and video content to make it accessible for people with visual impairments, obviously. Tab index attribute. Now we talk about the tab index attribute. It is used to make the element focusable and define the relative order in which they should be navigated using the keyboard. It is important to never use the tab index attribute with a value greater than 0. Instead, you should either use a value 0 or -1. Okay, so this is a bit complex. Tab index is basically actually, let's say, input field inside our and that input field. So tab index, we can give this attribute inside the input field, so that first we should actually input the what we have to input inside our input field, then we should click on the button, not first click on the button. So the tab index should be 0, then -1. That's how it works. Okay. Now we talk about the access key. Access key attribute is very important. It is really useful for those with, let's say, we who don't use how to use mouse. Maybe let's say you don't have a mouse, you want to access the whole page using a keyboard. You can use the access key to provide shortcuts to the elements. For example, if you want to submit a form, use Alt plus S to submit the form. So to use that, we have to actually add this attribute inside our form and add the shortcut as well. Now we hop on to the last topic of our HTML, WAI, ARIA, roles and attributes. What are these responsible for? WAI ARIA stands for Web Accessibility Initiative Accessible Rich Internet Application. It is a set of attributes that can be added to HTML element to improve the accessibility. It provides additional information to assistive technologies about the purpose and structure of the content. Okay. So this technology is basically provides the structure and purpose of the content basically. ARIA roles set the predefined roles that can be added to HTML and their purpose. So now what is the use of these roles here? Roles, we can add these roles inside our elements. For example, there is a div section inside our web page which we can use as a button. So if we want to use the div section as a button, the visually impaired person using the screen reader doesn't know that this div is a button. So we can add the role button there to show them that this div is actually a button. This div is can be used as a button, or some kind of image is a button. So how a visually impaired person know that this image is a button? So we can show it by using this. So we have different kind of roles. So we have a tab role, we have a menu role. Some div is a menu, so we can assign the role menu there. Something is an alert, something actually gives alert some button. If you click on that, it gives an alert. So we actually predefine that this div is actually for alert. Now there are two main attributes here, label and labeled by, ARIA labeled and labeled by. So if we want to actually these attributes are basically used for same purpose, but they are a little bit different. For example, so if you want to give an element a programmatic name, for example, we can use ARIA label. And if we want to use the element, some other element, and we have to associate with the same element, then we can use the ARIA labeled by. For example, here there should be an example here. For example, here they are often used when the visual label for element is an image or a symbol rather than a text. Yeah, label by allows you to define the name directly into attribute, and label by allows you to reference the existing text for the image. For example, we have a button. Okay, we have a button, so we can label the button, and inside the button, the label for the button, we can use ARIA label, labeled for button, and inside and the button is actually an image. So the image is not a button, but if we want to use image as a button, we have to use this actually inside the image to show that this is actually a button which is associated with this. So this is a little bit complex to understand here. Okay, now let's talk about ARIA hidden. Used to hide the element from assistive technologies such as screen reader. For example, we can use a decorative image for provide a meaningful content. For example, ARIA hidden attribute is used to hide the element from assistive technologies such as screen reader. For example, there should be, like, we can say that there is a button which we want to hide from the screen reader. We can use ARIA hidden. We can use ARIA explained also. expanded also. So for example, there is a pop-up which can expand, we can toggle the state. So if it is used to convey that the state is toggle disclosure, yeah, state of toggle, yeah, state of toggle means it if it is opened or closed. Okay. ARIA live. ARIA live is actually used to indicate that the element content is important enough to require any changes to content should be announced immediately to the screen reader users. This can include the status message like updating the number of the result returned to the search, or an error message displayed after the unsuccessful form submission. Yeah. So ARIA live here can be used for multiple purposes. For example, we can use ARIA live here to announce immediately to screen reader users, yeah, or for example we can also use this to like for example there are multiple results coming from a search, like you search for something and there are multiple results for that. So because there are multiple results, we can use ARIA live for that, because the results are dynamically changing. There are multiple answers for the same question, for example. Now we have wait a minute, yeah, for example we have the status message, we have the search, we have error displayed for like you try to submit a form but is hasn't submitted, so you can use ARIA search here. Common ARIA states here. Common ARIA states include hash pop-up, ARIA checked, ARIA disabled, ARIA selected. These are actually the common ARIA states. So for example, some element has the ARIA hash pop-up, so it tells the web page, it tells the accessibility component, the tools through which they are accessing the web page, the disabled persons, that this section has a pop-up, and if you click on that, the pop-up will appear. ARIA checked here is actually for checked. So basically if we have multiple options and some options are checked by default, so we have this checked. ARIA disabled is basically that shows that we can't enter anything, the input is disabled for the people with disabilities. ARIA selected, basically this is for if you want to select something inside the ARIA, something is selected by default, so ARIA selected. ARIA controls attribute, used to associate an element with another element that it controls. This helps assistive technology understand the relationship between elements. Okay. ARIA described by attribute is used to provide additional information about an element by associating it with another element that contains the information. It helps assistive technology to understand the purpose of the element. True. All this we have studied now. Now we have completed our HTML now. So we can click on this review HTML topics concept we have completed here, and we can submit. Okay. Now let's submit it. Now we completed our HTML. Now we hop on to CSS now. So inside the CSS we have multiple things we can learn. For example, computer basics, basic CSS, design, absolute and relative units, pseudo class and elements, colors, styling forms, the box model, flex box, typography, accessibility, positioning, attribute selectors, responsive design, variables, grid, and animations. Okay, so we are going to start the CSS and the JavaScript at the same time. Inside the JavaScript we have code editors, variable and strings, boolean, number, function, arrays, loops. Okay, JavaScript fundamental review, higher order function callbacks, DOM manipulation, debugging, basic regex, form validation, dates, audio video events, map sets, local storage and CRUD operations, classes, recursion, functional programming, and asynchronous JavaScript. Okay. Now after that we have the front end libraries like React. Inside React we can we can understand, first of all, we have to complete the React fundamentals. After that, we will hop onto hooks and routing. After that, we have performance. This is also coming soon. Okay, so this is actually coming soon. Oh, okay, so only there are React fundamentals here. So everything else is coming soon actually. The curriculum is still in beta. That's not that good, I guess. Yeah, everything is coming soon. Relational database is also coming soon. Python, backend JavaScript is also coming soon. Okay. We can also learn English. Okay, that's really good. Actually, we can also do this in the meantime. Okay, secondary lectures here. Lectures have okay. Yeah, understanding a computer internet. What are the basic parts of the computer? Let's start. Okay.
What are the basic parts of a computer? Computers are very powerful machines that perform a variety of tasks, like writing documents, playing games, and browsing the internet. As a developer, it is important to understand the basic inner workings of a computer. The first major component of a computer would be the motherboard. The motherboard holds all the memory and connectors that are needed to run the computer. It serves as the main circuit board for the computer. Inside the computer case of the motherboard, you will find the CPU, which stands for Central Processing Unit. The CPU is a processor that is responsible for executing instructions and performing calculations. It is often referred to as the brain of the computer. The CPU is a small square with a chip that goes into the motherboard's CPU socket. The CPU processor speed is measured in gigahertz and megahertz. Gigahertz is a billion cycles per second, and megahertz is a million cycles per second. The next critical component of a computer would be the system's short-term memory. This is known as RAM, or random access memory. RAM is a temporary storage location for the computer's CPU. Anytime the computer needs to access data quickly, it will use RAM. The more RAM you have on your computer, the faster it will run, and the more programs you can run at the same time. If you're running low on RAM, your computer will run slower, and you will notice a difference in performance. It is important to note that RAM is a volatile memory. This means that it is lost when the computer is turned off. This is why it is important to save your work on your computer. When you do save your files, they are stored on the hard drive. The hard disk drive, or HDD, is a permanent storage location that is used to store data even when the computer is turned off. This is where all your files and software are stored. The hard drive is made up of a spinning platter and an arm. The platter is where the data is stored, and the arm is used to read and write data to the platter. When you have a faster hard drive, your computer will boot up faster and your programs will run faster. Another type of data storage would be the solid-state drive, or SSD for short. SSD is non-volatile flash memory and can be used in place of a hard drive. SSDs are faster and smaller than hard drives, but hard drives are cheaper and have more storage capacity. Another key component of a computer is the power supply unit, or PSU. The PSU is responsible for converting the electricity from the wall outlet into a form that the computer can use. It sends the power from the outlet to the motherboard, CPU, and other components of the computer. And another key component would be the expansion cards. These cards are inserted into the motherboard to add additional functionality to the computer. Examples of expansion cards would be the video card, sound card, and network card. The video card, also known as the Graphics Processing Unit or GPU, is responsible for rendering visuals on the computer's screen. The sound card is responsible for playing sound on the computer's speakers. The network card is responsible for connecting the computer to the internet. Even though there are many more parts to the computer, these are some basic parts that you should familiarize yourself with now.
Okay. So we have started from the basics. What is RAM? RAM is actually a short-term memory. Yeah. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. What is the network card responsible for? Network card connecting the computer to the internet. Correct. Okay. How can you actively work with your keyboard, mouse, and pointing devices? Okay, let's go. Internet is a bit slow. That's weird.
How can you effectively work with your keyboard, mouse, and other pointing devices? Many of you have been used to working with your keyboard and mouse for years on end for a variety of activities like gaming, performing tasks for work, or surfing the web. But prolonged misuse of these devices can lead to serious health problems down the road. In this lecture video, we will cover ways to work with your computer's keyboard and mouse in healthy ways. The first tip is to be mindful of the mouse grip. When working on serious tasks for work or during intense gaming moments, you may tend to grip the mouse too hard. However, this can lead to serious hand and wrist issues. To prevent this, you want to make sure to hold the mouse gently and keep your fingers nice and relaxed. The second tip is to consider using an ergonomic keyboard and mouse. These tools are designed to reduce wrist strain by keeping your hands in a more natural position. While prices for these devices can vary and may be costly purchase for your current budget, they can be a good investment in your overall long-term health. So you might consider starting to research an ergonomic keyboard and mouse to use. Another tip is to keep your mouse the same height as your keyboard. You don't want to have to reach up or down to use a mouse, as this can strain your wrist and arm muscles over time. You also want to be mindful of your overall posture when sitting at the computer for hours on end. Being slouched over your computer and putting your wrist in an unnatural position at the keyboard will lead to long-term health issues. So you want to make sure to sit up straight when working at your computer and maintain a healthy and natural wrist position. The last tip would be to use keyboard shortcuts whenever possible to help minimize typing. There are dozens of shortcuts available for tasks such as navigating the web, navigating around your operating system, working with a code editor, and more. So it's best to research some of these keyboard shortcuts and start incorporating them into your daily computer usage. As you continue using your mouse and keyboard for upcoming coding projects and other activities, remember to keep these health tips in mind.
Okay. Which one risk opening quickly?
internet service providers. First, what is an internet service provider, or ISP? It's a company that sells access to the global internet network, essentially, and they come in three different tiers. The first tier are the giant conglomerate companies, which have the infrastructure to handle most, if not all, of their network traffic independently. The second tier are the countrywide providers, which sometimes rent access to Tier 1 networks but can stand fairly well on their own. The third tier are the small companies that primarily focus on providing internet to local markets and rely on larger internet service providers to provide their infrastructure. These providers will offer different types of connections as well. Fiber optics connections rely on glass or plastic fibers to transmit data via light, resulting in very high connection speeds and data exchange. Cable connections use the same infrastructure as a cable television provider, which often makes them readily available in many regions.
Live
DSL
stream.
connections use the infrastructure that landline phone services use. Because of the prevalence of this infrastructure, DSL
सर
is
सोनू
available
देख
in
रहा था
areas where cable may not be. But this is also frequently a slower
मैसेज
option.
Speak
Dial-up
louder.
uses the phone lines but requires exclusive connection, disabling the use of the line for phone purposes when connected to the internet. This is a much older technology that has fallen into disuse. Satellite connections use an array of satellites orbiting the Earth to connect various devices across the world. And finally, similar to that, a 5G home internet provider uses the cell tower infrastructure to keep